All right, big case yesterday before the United States Supreme Court. And while it has to do with New Jersey, it really has national implications everywhere regarding not just pregnancy crisis centers, but also really any organization the government hates and disagrees with. Joining us now on the show, Carrie Severino is president of the Judicial Crisis Network. She's co-author of the book Justice on Trial, the Kavanaugh Confirmation and the Future of the Supreme Court. Carrie, thanks for joining us here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It was a very big deal yesterday, I thought, when Justice Clarence Thomas pointed out to the Attorney General of New Jersey that nobody at this pregnancy resource center in New Jersey complained. No donors complained. None of the women complained. Nobody complained, period.
Absolutely. New Jersey has been trying to attack these pregnancy centers, claiming that they are somehow misleading consumers, misleading their donors, particularly because somehow these people donating to crisis pregnancy centers thought they were donating to someone who's providing abortions. That's ludicrous. Everyone knows that's clearly not the case, right? These are very clearly pro-life organizations trying to help women in a crisis pregnancy, give them the support, the supplies, the material help, and the emotional help that they need. So that's already ludicrous on its face. But then Justice Thomas said, well, what evidence do you have? You're saying this is confusing for people. Is anyone complained? And he had to go back and ask the question 3 or 4 times because they just kept beating around the bush and finally acknowledged, yeah, we have no real complaints against these pregnancy centers, but we think we still should be able to do this fishing expedition anyway. And I think that's something the Supreme Court is not going to look kindly on.
Yeah, I even read that one of the liberal justices seemed sympathetic to the idea that it's just wrong for the government to be able to just track down donors and essentially then intimidate them.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Justice Kagan sounded like she could be a vote in favor of them. Look, the fundamental case in this issue that they're relying on is actually a 1958 case called NAACP versus Alabama, where the state of Alabama was trying to do exactly the same thing to the NAACP. They were trying to publicize the donors. People were losing their jobs. People were getting threats. This is the type of behavior that can happen, unfortunately, across the board, and we want to make sure no organization is subjected to it. That's the First Amendment freedom of association right here. And what New Jersey is trying to do is do an end run around that case, because even though the pregnancy centers have brought suit in federal court to vindicate their rights, they're trying to drag them into state court where they think they're going to get a more sympathetic audience to the state AG who's on this warpath against the pregnancy centers.
And the reason why, I mean, just so people understand, these pregnancy centers really are competition for Planned Parenthood, because a lot of these women go to these pregnancy centers and then end up deciding to place the baby for adoption. I mean, our family benefited from that on 2 different occasions. So it does compete with Planned Parenthood, which is why they hate them. And to just back up a second, Carrie Severino, Biden's Department of Justice, their Civil Rights Division also went after these pregnancy crisis centers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, it's no surprise. They don't make any money off of this, but we know Planned Parenthood makes all their money from abortions. They're not making it from handing out condoms. They're making it from the abortions. And they actually were working hand in glove with the AG. Just again, this is like when Biden's DOJ is working with them. It's not okay. It's not okay when they're working with the New Jersey AG, because they're trying to engineer a way to have the government opposing their competition in the market. It's horrible. If people really were concerned about women having a choice, so many women, I think it's 70% of women who say if they had more financial resources, if they had more things to fix those other problems in their lives, it's not that they don't want to carry this child, it's that they feel that the other circumstances don't allow it. Well, here's these pregnancy centers wanting to come along a woman and give her those options so that she has an ability to make the choice that she wants to make. The Planned Parenthood isn't doing that. Planned Parenthood is offering one option only.
Yeah, no, Carrie, it's so true. And in addition to that, these pregnancy centers, they give out diapers, car seats, ultrasounds. They make sure that the women are healthy and they get the kind of vitamins that they need early on, the prenatal vitamins that are so important. They do a lot of great work. And this idea that the state can start going after donors and looking at people, that's an intimidation factor. But so is suing them, right? Because a lot of times they don't have the kind of money that Planned Parenthood does. They don't get government funding, or if they do, it's a pittance here and there. So in many ways, it's just, let's just go after them. We'll bust their chops in court, and then maybe we can just shut them out of business by just suing them. Now, in this case, they had great, I believe, pro bono representation by a wonderful organization. But thank God, right? Because otherwise, that's part of what the government likes to do. We'll intimidate you, and essentially now we'll bankrupt you just through the courts.
Yeah, the process is the punishment. So even if you're ultimately vindicated, they have to spend how much time, how many years working on this. And yeah, thank God for ADF's great pro bono support, but ADF's having to pay for that, right? And all of the people in this organization, every minute they're spending trying to strategize how we're going to fight this lawsuit, having to go through all their files in case they need to give them, years of back records, all of this donor information. They're having to try to shore things up with their donors. It's already causing damage. There are a bunch of donors that signed an affidavit as part of this case saying, yeah, if I thought my name was going to be disclosed to the state, of course that would make me think twice about donating. And so what do you think is going to happen to their bottom line? And certainly, at a very minimum, they're incredibly distracted from their core mission of helping women.
Carrie Severino, as you looked at the case yesterday and you listened to the oral arguments, were there any other moments in addition to Justice Thomas and Justice Kagan that really struck out at you?
I think Chief Justice Roberts made a really good point. Again, the state was trying to say there's no chilling effect on donors. Why are they going to be so scared about their name being disclosed? And he was like, really? Really? I mean, and I think several of the justices came back. There was another exchange. I think Justice Barrett led it, where they were saying, well, this subpoena, it's too early to sue on this. We don't even really know what the court's going to do with this. It's non-self-executing, all these things. And she goes, come on, look at the text of this thing. And if you read the text, it says at the very end, if you are subject to penalty of contempt of court if you don't abide by the rules of this subpoena. So I thought it was great that she was pressing them on that. Justice Gorsuch got in on that as well. So there were a lot of really good exchanges. I think New Jersey has to be feeling pretty down after the way their arguments fared. They didn't have a lot of great answers.
And so we all understand, would the scope of the ruling in this be just towards this one pregnancy crisis center, or would this have bigger implications for the First Amendment?
Well, obviously, it's going to have the biggest implications for the crisis pregnancy centers in New Jersey, because it's not just first choice. They're trying to cross the board attack these centers. However, this is much, much bigger, because if New Jersey is able to do this, then you're going to have other states. Illinois might think, that might be a good idea. California, which actually has already lost on this issue at the Supreme Court just a few years ago in a different case called Americans for Prosperity, where they were trying to, again, release conservative groups' donors, and they were just trying to release all nonprofits donors. But the bottom line is you can't do that. We know which side's going to get attacked more. We know who is at more risk for the boycotts and people attempting to force them out of the market, everything like that. So the Supreme Court said, California, you can't do it. Now they need to go back and say, New Jersey, you can't do it either. But I think eventually you're going to get states that start to get the message. And otherwise, this could be a state that wants to attack, gun manufacturers and is trying to get donors to the NRA disclosed. You might have someone who's trying to attack the oil and gas industry and is trying to use lawfare in that manner. We need to make sure all of that is shut down so that any group has a right to associate freely without fear of being attacked by the state and being targeted by their own government.
And very fascinating how you point up that the case is based on a case where people were donating to the NAACP. And that's what the basis of this case is on. That's very fascinating history right there.
Yeah, and the ACLU filed an amicus brief actually in favor of the pregnancy centers for that very reason, because this is an issue that should cut across party lines.
Excellent. Carrie Severino, Judicial Crisis Network. I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Great talking to you.